And here we are with another episode of Church Pew Sports. It is good to have you with us as we connect sports to faith and life. And, our desire is, our goal, our plan actually is to produce an episode every week. Man, life is busy. Life is absolutely crazy. And I'm so glad that we're able to get the gang together today. Pastor Paul Miller joins us from back in Minneapolis, where his journey to get from all of the road trips that he's been on back to Minneapolis, Paul, is kind of right out of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Are you the John Candy character or the Steve Martin character?
I think I'm the guy in the polka band that plays the clarinet, whoever that was.
Sit in the back of the freezing cold truck.
Sit in the back of the truck, playing the clarinet. I don't know why the clarinet. Just that's what I think. That's the guy I think I am.
And you escaped Newark, middle seat, back row of last flight out of Saigon.
Yeah, it was one of those Hail Mary, can I get on this flight, please, kind of standby things. And wasn't the most comfortable flight I've ever been a part of. You know, the back two rows of the plane, there's no windows, and I'm in the middle seat, and those rows are kind of compressed even further because they're trying to jam in as many as they can. It was great, but it got me home. It got me out of New Jersey, which I was happy to be, back to Minneapolis, and now I don't have to get on a plane for a little over a week, so I'm happy.
Well, that's good. That's good. And we're also joined today by David Collins, checking in with his Tiger cap on and ready for this season to get underway. We're going to talk World Baseball Classic here in a couple moments. We'll talk about Tarek Skubal and his decisions. And we also want to welcome in, though, before we get to all that, Scott Tinman, who's joining us. Scott said, "Yeah, I'll jump in. You guys are going to record in the afternoon, and I'm going to get in on this because we're going to talk March Madness. And because of the busyness of all of our schedules, we almost didn't get to record the March Madness episode before March Madness round one got underway." Yeah. My understanding is, though, we've already had round zero. David, what is play-in day called? What are we doing?
Yeah, so we already had the two games where the teams were fighting for the 16 seed happened, and then today the 11 seeds that are fighting to be an 11, or teams that are fighting to be an 11 seed played today. So like Miami of Ohio and a couple other teams will play today for their entrance. So it's just kind of a weird situation, but it's been going on like this for a few years now, where they added these four teams. I don't know why you have to play in to be an 11 seed. That's a concept that doesn't make any sense to me. But you know what? I've stopped caring, because guess what? It's all about chaos. It's all about just nothing making sense.
Well, we'll dig into that theory, because David is usually much better in bracketology than I am, and yet he roots for chaos time and time again. And I don't know how to make sense out of any of it. But before we get to that, let's talk briefly about the World Baseball Classic, because it just wrapped up last night. It was Venezuela and the U.S. in the finals, in an atmosphere that was so electric, it had Paul Miller watching baseball.
Yes, I watched more baseball in the last week, a little over a week, than I have my entire life, I think, cumulative. And I was here for all of it, except for last night. I didn't get to watch last night because I was on the road. But I understand I did miss a great game. But
yeah, you did last night. So what drew you into it after all this time of just not paying attention to baseball at all?
You know, you guys know, if you've listened to me talk about the Olympics, how I kind of pre-record all the Olympics events, and then I go back, and if the U.S. wins, then I'll go back and watch it, because I don't feel like wasting my time if they don't win. And so I have this weird kind of thing about rooting for Team USA. And I heard that the baseball team was being called a dream team, kind of hearkening back to the dream team, the NBA dream team or whatever. And so I'm like, I recognize all the names in the lineup. This is going to be interesting. And I watched the first game against, who was it? Brazil, I think. And it hooked me. And I'm like, I could actually watch an entire baseball game and be interested. There's something about the rooting for the USA thing, and the guys celebrating. And then there was the over the top celebrations, drinking espressos in the dugout and all the things. It was just super entertaining. I don't know how else to say it.
David, what happens in May if a if a hitter tosses his bat like any of them did in the World Baseball Classic.
And that's what I love about the World Baseball Classic, because if you do that in the regular season, then you have pundits and Brian McCann and all these different people saying, oh, unwritten rules, you don't show up a pitcher, you don't. The World Baseball Classic throws all that out the window. They say, let each country be themselves, be demonstrative, celebrate. It's what makes it so much fun. And the fact that it's a tournament the way that it is and there's so few games, hint, hint, MLB, maybe not 162 games, hint, hint, other leagues, maybe not 82 games, basketball, I'm looking at you. Like when you create urgency with every game that you're playing, it just brings an extra element of excitement and energy. And so I love it because, you're going to get the Dominican team and the Puerto Rican teams when they play together, and you're going to get the bat flips, and you're going to get everybody running out onto the field. It's just, it's so much fun. It's like what baseball is supposed to kind of look like, but we've professionalized it so much in America that you just don't get that same intensity game to game.
Well, that final game that took place in Miami, right, was basically a home game for Venezuela. I mean, that crowd was on fire for Venezuela. And a great game was unfolding. We being the U.S., gets late into the game. We're trailing 2-0. Bryce Harper comes up to the plate and does this.
Harper sends a fly ball to deep center field. Better late than never. Bryce Harper has tied the championship.
Just a mammoth blast. Then his bat toss went from the left side of home plate basically to the dugout down the third baseline. And that was just absolutely wild. And you think, it's 2-2. We might even get extras out of this, which would have been pretty cool to go into extras in the deciding game. And we get to the top of the ninth, and here comes Venezuela. They get their run back, and then it all comes down to the bottom of the ninth.
Venezuela, the best in baseball.
As Aaron Judge and his compatriots they could not make contact. I mean, there was absolutely no offense happening for them, and that's kind of how it all went down. And then you cut away in the shot a little bit later on in the celebration and see like Miguel Cabrera crying. I didn't expect it. Smiles and dancing around and jubilation. I kind of got that. And Scott, I don't know if it surprised you at all if you were watching all this, but to see a guy like a retired player like Cabrera, who's obviously there in a support role for the team, having tears in his eyes, I was surprised. Were you?
I was, and I was actually reading a little bit about that because he's been on all their teams as a player and now as a coach, and he finally gets to have that gold around his neck, still being a part of that. I thought that was pretty cool and good for Miguel.
Had stories of teammates from different countries, major league teammates from different countries, not talking to each other. They're keeping their boundaries, Paul. It was an interesting dynamic because by tomorrow they're all back in camp with their teams.
Yeah, it was that's part of what made it fascinating. Here's what I can't figure out, and I need you baseball guys to help me sort it out. Was it more interesting because it was one and done as opposed to like the Major League Baseball where it's best of 7, and like I don't think I would bet against the US in a best of 7 against Venezuela, kind of thing, but in a one game scenario, you never know what's going to happen. Or is it more intriguing because it's preseason, and so like all the stuff about pitch counts and guys are rounding into shape and they're not fully in like mid-season form or whatever, and so the hitting for the US is not what it should be and all that kind of stuff. What do you attribute what made it so compelling, I guess, is my question. What would you say it is?
David, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of a lot of different things. Like you were saying, I mean, obviously, anytime you get national pride into something, and when you look and we're talking about Miguel Cabrera crying and stuff, this really means something to these players. And I think the NBA All-Star Game this year was an example of that. Like, it got much better ratings and a lot more positive conversation. Why? Because the players actually looked like they cared and they were trying out there. And when you get this, like, these guys are laying everything on the line for their country. They're laying everything on the line for the people next to them. And that's what gives it this, like, extra, it's one thing when you get a World Series with the Dodgers, and yeah, there's intensity and it's awesome for 7 games, but there's something specific of just about the way they approach the game differently than they would. And it's guys that, maybe are fringe major leaguers or minor leaguers, but they become heroes in certain moments, and they get this opportunity to shine and be starters for every game. So you're getting players that don't always get the opportunity to be on that stage, jump in there, and everybody working their hardest, trying their best. And then you throw in all the other stuff, like you're saying. I mean, obviously the nationalities and all that, but you throw in how they got to adjust their rosters for certain players and pitch counts and how many. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's just a mixture of all of it. But to me, I think the number one thing is simply how much the players seem to care.
How much different would it be if this whole thing was in the middle of the season and the season was 10 games shorter? So the All-Star break becomes a week and a half, but this is that tournament in the middle of it. But there's not still 162 games to play. Would it be any different, or was this max enthusiasm with it being where it is now?
I think it's max enthusiasm where it is now because anyone that's a baseball fan, you're rampant, you're itching for baseball, like you want it. And they give you something that, even though it's quote unquote exhibition, like I said, it matters. Like a lot of times when you try to create these things out of nowhere, nobody cares. They don't turn into anything. Like, you look at the NBA midseason tournament and stuff like that. There's a lot of this stuff that doesn't wind up actually making a difference. But this one matters to these players. This one matters because baseball isn't an Olympic sport, So this is their time to shine in a very specific way. And I think where it's at is perfect because now everybody that is looking forward to baseball, your mouth is starting to water. Like, we're ready to go.
We're not going to get into geopolitics, but my son was texting me during the game and he said, Do you think that what's happened politically in Venezuela has either extra fuel for these players because they're livid at America or because they just want to prove that they're still a country? I mean, I don't think anybody really had a deep affection for Maduro. So my guess would be that they were just wanting to stand up and show their pride as Venezuelans, and they did, and it definitely came shining through. Last question on the classic idea. Everybody here okay with the decision that Skubal and Boris and the Tigers made? Because I don't think Skubal in the hindsight category, I don't think he was. I think he wanted to be out there. But, I mean, it came down to conversations, right? And he just signed his lucrative deal, but he wanted to be out there pitching. I mean, it was pretty evident. When you show up at the game, when you know you're not even on the roster with a backpack on and in full uniform, you're feeling like you're one of the boys. So I don't know, David, Tiger guy, would you do it differently?
I was fine with it. I know he ultimately, and this is goes back to what you were talking about, Paul. Like Skubal said, I'm pitching one game and done. After he pitched that game, he was like desperate to get back out there and keep playing for the team. Like he wasn't expecting to feel the emotion and stuff about this is what baseball's supposed to feel like. But at the same time, like, you also have to compartmentalize. All the pitchers were on pitch counts. Every single one of them had agreements for how many times they were going to pitch, how many pitches they could throw. And ultimately, you have to stick to that. I was talking to my buddy's a Mets fan, and he was upset that Nolan McLean was pitching last night because he's like, he's going to get hurt somewhere in the season, and it's going to be because he threw all these extra pitches, and Skubal's going to be fine all year because he didn't, and he was all flipping out about it. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think these guys know what their bodies can do, and I think that they set those marks because they need these guys to be ready for what they're getting actually paid for.
Yeah. And we're also assuming that he wouldn't have been throwing those pitches at spring training, right? So I mean, you're still going to be with your team. All right, let's move over to basketball. That's the top of everybody's radar these days. The World Baseball Classic was really cool, but March Madness is here. And by the way, for all of you, right now, as we speak, the Church Pew Sports bracket is out on ESPN's Tournament Challenge, right? I just filled mine out a little bit ago. Paul, you've got it posted on social media, so we would love to have all of you who are listening, all of you who are sometimes guests or panelists on the show, but time is tight. So by the time tip-offs happen Thursday, the brackets are all closed up. So we've got to get people moving.
Yes. So I think it's just Church Pew Sports, all one word. So just go to Men's Tournament Challenge on ESPN or find my Twitter or like you said, the Facebook, the links are there. And enter the deal. There's nothing worse than saying, "Oh, I missed the deadline, so now I can't be a part of the fun."
Yeah.
So,
And it's huge prizes. I mean, it's huge prizes.
huge.
When you're as
Huge.
lucrative a podcast as this one is, the prizes are probably something you're going to have to report to the IRS.
So I sent the link to my fantasy football league here for the denomination, and guys are like, "What do I win?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, you get to come on the podcast and explain your
Yeah.
winning strategy
Yeah.
if you win." And that was enough for guys. They're like, "Okay, I'm in." So there you go. Apparently 5 minutes on this podcast is a thing. Maybe not of high value to get to do it more often, but for some guys, that's a thing.
It's better than cash. It's far better than cash. Scott, what is your methodology for your bracketology?
I do a few different ones. I start out with which colors are best for me that I like. And then I also look at the mascots, and if they were in a cage match, which one would beat the other one, and then pick it that way. And then I just go with my heart on the other one on that. But I'm just wondering too, like, there's no Hallmark movie that could be a penalty for coming in
I thought
last
about
on the
that.
church
I
pew.
thought about that too. You're onto something there. We should probably come up with a punishment for the basement dweller, even though I already know it's going to be me for the most part. But
That's a good idea. We'll take that into consideration for sure.
before I get to
Unless it's me again. So.
before I get to David's methodology, we do have a special guest popping in for just a moment because it was a couple of years ago that Jen Wilson from Hopevale Church in Saginaw won. And Paul, I know you haven't spoken to Jen quite a bit, but she is on the line now, I do believe. Jen, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul's listening in Minneapolis along with our other hosts, and we want to get from the
Hi, Paul Miller.
from the queen of predictions, what you shared with me via text earlier today on your methodology, because this is going to infuriate people who do homework.
Okay, well, it was a very scientific process. I chose all of the teams that had dogs as a mascot and in their logo.
Yep.
And then I chose the ones that Jesus just might be more likely to support based on the fact that they're Christian schools.
Okay.
And then I chose what my dad would have said. He was a very big U of M fan. And then if there was still a question, I chose the schools that were in warmer areas because they have no reason to be seasonally depressed. So they are definitely going to do better.
Climate.
Like the rest of us sorry saps up in the north, like Minneapolis and Michigan, are riding the struggle bus right now. But the people in Texas and like Florida, they have no excuses. They need to do better in March Madness than us.
Climate-based bracketology is a new level. And as I told her via text, and I'll share it for all of you on the record, if I lose to Jen this year with a climate-based, canine-based bracketology approach, I'm going to have to rethink a lot of things in my life. So there's a lot at stake here in this tournament. Paul, any words of wisdom for Jen? I know that you used to share them frequently with her.
Yeah, I did, but she never listened.
That's
So
fair. That is very
I
fair.
really don't know, Jen. I don't know if I have anything other than, how about you and I have like a little side bet, and whichever one of us finishes lower, we'll have to figure out what the penalty is for that. I can reach out to you offline and we can figure that out.
Somebody's buying lunch. I can feel it. All right, Jen, thanks for being available on the phone today. I told her she had no choice, so we were able to land this, one of our biggest guests ever, a former champion in the Church Pew Pick'em brackets. See you later.
Bye.
All right, David, your strategy, because you love chaos, but there's no way you're going out picking 16s over 1s and 15s over 2s. That's an instant loss. So what's your strategy?
I mean, this is that time of year where everybody becomes a college basketball expert and they know who has, senior guard play and whatever, blah, 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 and what coach and all this stuff. Honestly, I fill out one bracket every year, just one.
Yeah.
And I try my best to I basically just try to play out how I see the game going in my head, and that's kind of how I pick the team. A lot of times, I mean, if Michigan's usually anywhere 1-5, I'll pick them to win it all, just because if they do, not only will I win the national championship, I'll win a bracket. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I just look at it and kind of play it out in my head. Maybe look up a little bit about like the style of specific teams I play, and then see if I think that that's going to make a run. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly just, it's envisioning what's going to happen, and I just write that down.
So, who's your Final Four?
I have not filled out my bracket yet.
Oh, okay. I just did earlier today, and, I'm kind of wondering if this is the year that the Final Four, and I didn't pick it to do so, but I'm kind of wondering if this is the year the Final Four kind of goes chalk. I probably have thought that before, but there's kind of a conglomeration of talent in the top, let's say, 10 seeds in this tournament. And then, at least from my observation, it seems like quite a drop-off after that. Paul, where are you going with it all?
Okay, so my strategy is I have the same makeup for my Final Four every year, and I pick my 4 teams all the way through, and then I go back and fill in the rest of the bracket, right?
Really?
So it's always 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s every year. And it's either a boom or bust strategy, because if you pick the right number 2 on the right 2 number 1 seeds to make it through to the Final Four, then you're gold, right? And so that's what I do. And then what I do to fill in the rest of the bracket is I pick a guy who's a broadcaster on one of the networks that seems to me like he was making sense during conference championship week. Like, as he was talking, I'm like, that guy actually sounds like he knows what he's doing. And then I find his bracket and I fill in the rest of my picks based on whatever he says. So Jay Billis was my guy this year. So he has heavily influenced my bracket. I can tell you guys, I guess I can share what my picks are because nobody's going to really care. I have my 2 number 1s this year into the Final Four are, of course, Duke and Arizona. And I have Iowa State and Houston beating Florida and Michigan in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. I actually think Michigan is a really, really good team, but I don't know that I would have picked them over Arizona or Duke. So to keep to my formula, I had to have them losing 1 game shy of the final.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with the Wolverines. And David, we can talk about this a little bit. My Final Four has UConn and Houston, so 2 number 2s, and then Arizona and Michigan. But same reason as David, I picked Michigan because of allegiances. But it seemed like they were stronger at the beginning of the season than they have been at the tail end, as maybe tired, maybe turnovers, maybe whatever. Maybe it's an incorrect observation, but maybe they turn it on and they go rolling and never even think back to what the last couple of weeks have been. But they very easily could have lost a couple more games down the stretch and barely survived to get into the finals of the Big Ten tournament. Not that I think the Big Ten tournament matters all that much or anybody should really care about any of the conference tournaments, but it was there to be won. So Scott, when you get ready for March Madness, are you the guy who takes Thursday and Friday off? You use PTO so that you can just camp out in front of the TV or the screen, or are you going to kind of pretend to be working?
Well, this thing about PTO and being a youth pastor, I don't really know what that all means because, watching basketball is part of my job. Just invite a few students over to the youth room, put it up on the big screen, make some popcorn, order pizzas, and that's work.
I like it. David, what's your methodology? You're just mini screens everywhere, aren't you?
Yeah. I'll have a game on the TV, and then I'll have 3 more games on my computer, and I'll just sit there and zone in. But I like what Scott said, because I used to do the same thing when I was a youth pastor and when I was a teacher. In my office, we'd put big pieces of paper with every team, and we'd do the bracket, and I'd have a projector screen, and students between classes, or if they had like a study hall break, they just come sit in there and watch games, and it was work. So, it's a good gig if you can get it.
Yes, it is.
Well, now that we have, like with YouTube TV, you have the quad screens and you can basically fill it with all the basketball games. And to me, there's no more deep sighing moment than when all 4 games are at commercial at the same time. You know, they stagger the starts, so half times shouldn't be at the same time, but occasionally you're going to get TV timeouts that are concurrent with each other. Like, oh man, because I so much try to avoid the commercial interruptions. I cannot stand the replay reviews. And I found that as I was thinking about our conversation today, either I'm getting cranky and I'm too easily pre-irritated because I already know coming into the tournament there are some things that are just going to irritate me. They have to do with officiating and replays and TV timeouts. None of them are going to change. Is there anything on the pre-irritation list for you guys? Paul, we'll start with you. What, you know, as you get ready to watch some of these games, what have you braced yourself for?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, Bill, that I don't think any of us would be surprised by you saying that you're pre-irritated and cranky.
Fair.
I don't think that's a sports thing for you.
Well,
just a sports.
That's where he idles.
My resting state.
I am the only thing that's going to be irritating to me is that I am no longer working at a local church where I can get away with what Scott and David just described. Like, I actually asked the powers that be here at the national office where I work if we could roll in a couple of monitors and have the sports watching food in the break room and tell everyone bring your laptops and let's all work while we watch together. And that was a big no. So I'm either going to have to take some PTO or just be content with all the night games because, it's not a thing for me anymore. That's really the only thing. There's nothing about the actual event itself that ever annoys me because it's just so fun. Every part of this.
Why did you go to such lengths to get on a flight? You could have just stayed on the road and been stuck.
Sorry, I can't get home.
I'd love to be there, but I can't be. I'll see you guys on Monday, right?
Exactly.
Scott, when you're settling in, like, I don't know who your favorite team is. What's your allegiance?
So my first allegiance is North Carolina Tar Heels, but I know that they're not going to be good this year because Hubert Davis is still in charge. So
you're not going to sit there in front of their games and be stunned if they get beat.
No, not at all.
It's a tough first round matchup against VCU.
Yeah, I do have that as an upset. I'm not looking good for them. And anybody who can beat Duke, I'm a fan of. I just don't like Duke.
You're not alone in that, my friend.
Right in on Church Pew Sports.
Okay, so there we go, friends. We want you all to be a part of the fun of the madness. Get in the Church Pew Sports Pick'em brackets. If you need the link, I'll put it in the notes to the podcast, but you'll also find it on our social channels on Facebook and X. Let's jump into a little holy discontent. It's been a while. I'm sure we have some pent up energy.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
There we go. Paul, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, yeah, I've had this one chambered for a little while. A couple weeks ago, Ohio State it was during the portal craziness in college football, and they had the representative of a transfer portal player reach out and say, we'd like to come visit Ohio State. We're interested in Ohio State. But he said, the rep said, we need $50,000 for this player to come visit. Right? So OSU tells him, stay home. No thanks. And then the rep calls back a couple days later and says the player will visit for free.
Nice.
So the player comes and makes his visit. And while he's on his visit, Ohio State tells him and his family that they're not interested and tells the parents that it was a big mistake to ask for $50,000 in advance. And the Buckeyes come to find out that the player and the parents had no idea that request was made for the 50 grand.
Somebody wanted that money sent to them.
You know who made the request? Yeah. The player's rep or agent. And you know who that was?
Uncle?
his pastor.
Oh, no.
Right?
No, I
So this story just bothers me on so many levels. The only good part of the story is that Ohio State said, yeah, you should have never asked for money up front. Goodbye. And it has nothing to do with whether or not you're a player we could use. It's just we're not doing that. We're not playing that game. But the fact that the pastor says, if you throw 50,000 my way, I'll get this kid from my church to come visit your school. That is just wrong on so many levels. And yeah, so there you go.
That is a really, really good holy discontent. Man, wow. Remember to tithe off your NIL money, boys and girls.
That's right.
Scott, what's your holy discontent?
I'm just wondering, what denomination was that? No, we won't go into that.
And do they get to watch basketball games on Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, that's right. My holy discontent, I am an NBA fan. I like watching the NBA, and I'm also a Bulls fan, which means I'm very disappointed for many years since the Michael Jordan years, right? But my holy discontent is, what is the deal in the last few years of this whole tanking? I'm not tanking. I'm making it look like I'm tanking. So you got the Utah Jazz who get fined, and some other teams that get fined. But then you have the Bulls who trade away every viable player that could play and say that they're not tanking, and these guys are hurt, and these guys are hurt. They were in the play-in game and probably had a shot, but yet management and all these different teams that are tanking for this draft class coming up. And so I'm just tired of, like, hey, if we're not in it at All-Star break, we're just going to try to go and load up for the draft. And so that's pretty disappointing for me as an NBA fan, and makes it really, I can understand why people say that the NBA is unwatchable these days.
It definitely is. David, you're wholly discontent.
Yeah, so I don't know which way to go with, like, which angle to go at this from, because just about everything about it bothers me. But recently, Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat scored 83 points in a basketball game.
Yes.
Now, again, if you score 83 points in an NBA game, I don't care how it happened. That's impressive. Like, I don't take anything away. The stamina you have to do that. He was hitting threes. He had 30 some points in the first quarter. He played an incredible game. My problem is, like, the Washington Wizards absolutely just fouling and being idiots and trying to, like, that was horrible. The Heat intentionally missing shots to try to get rebounds to get him the ball. The game was a circus. And then on top of that, the media afterwards, and I don't know who I'm more mad at, the people that were, like, trying to defend that it was awesome and everyone should just not complain about it, or the people that did nothing but complain about it. The reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It was an incredible feat. I thought it was amazing when I heard Bam Adebayo, out of all people, has the second most points in NBA history. The other problem I have with it is people saying, well, they're mad because he broke Kobe's record. Well, what record did Kobe have? Second most points in a game all time? Is that a record now? Like, I don't understand. If we're going to say Wilt had the 100, which there's no video evidence of it happening, but, like, if we're going to say that it happened, then okay, 81's nice, but it's like people are angry at Bam Adebayo and the Heat for, like, stomping on Kobe's memory, and they should have taken him out when he scored 81 in honor of Kobe. It's like, you think Kobe would have done that? If he was one bucket away from a record, you think Kobe, the Mamba, is ever going to take himself out of a game to honor someone else's second place record? The whole rhetoric around the whole thing, incredibly stupid, and was very frustrating to hear. But anyways, congrats, Bam. That's an incredible thing. But yeah, it was awful to watch. Even the replays of it, just brutal.
Your holy discontent connects somewhat into Scott's holy discontent, because it was another reason that I find the vast majority of the NBA to be so incredibly unwatchable. 83 points should have been a celebration of incredible shot making and all of the dominance that you would expect from somebody putting up those numbers. He had 43 free throws.
Yeah.
Is there anything more scintillating than watching the game stop that many times for one guy? for one guy. It's absolutely wild. My holy discontent took place a couple weeks ago. In the hearing, basically, it was in a courtroom where Trinidad Chambliss was appealing for another year of eligibility to play football at the collegiate level instead of going pro, because, as we all know, you make more now staying in college than you do turning pro. The head football coach from Ole Miss University was on the witness stand, and he was asked about when a player's girlfriend becomes pregnant, what would be your advice? I don't know why they were asking that question. I have no idea why that was relevant at all to the Chambliss matter, because I didn't watch anything beyond the soundbite. But his soundbite, oh my goodness, coach, get some coaching. Here you go.
We would have to educate significant others who may have been pregnant during the season, or going to have a baby during the season. And you'd have to educate them on, you have this baby in the middle of the season. That father has to play good football, right? It's a day-by-day production business. He has to be ready to perform and go out there and play. And when I say that is, you need to let him sleep. He needs to be in another room, detached. You have to explain to the mother, like, hey, listen, he ain't waking up for midnight feedings. After the season, he's full metal jacket. You do whatever you want with him. He can change every diaper. But in the season, he's got to have a different priority.
I hope y'all could hear that pretty well. Because he said,
unfortunately, yes.
He said the guy needs his sleep, and she needs to know that because he's still required to play good football. And it's almost like it was taken right out of The Simpsons. I mean, it's such a comical answer that I don't know how Ole Miss didn't just call him up and go, "Hey, Joe, clean out your desk. We made a mistake here. This is not going to work." Paul, I want you to be the AD when Joe gets back to the office following this testimony that you just watched live streamed on your computer.
Oh man, I was like, Joe, what are you thinking? Are you saying that same thing to all the players, including the married ones, who, and probably having a conversation with him about priorities. And are we helping these young men to grow up and become the men that we think they should be? The answer is obviously no. There's so many things wrong with that story.
There is, and that's great and all, but you know what the conversation is actually going to be with the AD? Hey, we made it to the Final Four last year. Can we get the next step next year?
It's true.
Everything's forgiven.
That is true. I'm hoping
I do want to say that I think this is the best lineup of holy discontents that we've had in the history of this podcast. Like, every single one of them was just
pretty legit.
Flabbergasting. Yes.
I'm hoping Scott's not taking notes on how to react if one of the young men and women in his youth group were in this similar situation. I don't want to hear later that Scott went to the young lady and said, "You need to understand, Trevor needs his sleep." So Scott, just let us all hear it for the record. That's not
Bible study comes first.
That's right.
That's right.
All right, it's time for that guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
Time to call out somebody who's doing it like we really appreciate. Want to give them a tip of the cap. And Scott, you actually sent me a link a couple of days ago to one that you wanted to shout out. So I'm going to let you introduce it, and then we'll play the soundbite.
Oh, the shout out of the basketball tournament here coming up.
The USF coach.
Oh, I think that was some other guy. That was wasn't that Carson that did that?
Oh, somebody sent it to me. Well, then you don't have any idea what I'm talking about.
It wasn't me.
Well, then I'll give it a lead in. The USF basketball coach, they're thrilled to be in the tournament. His name is Brian Hodgson. And one of the reasons that he's so thrilled to be in the tournament is because it's the first time in his life that his father, will be able to watch him coach. And he has just a very powerful word of thanks for that moment.
God works in mysterious ways, and said it yesterday in my press conference, but my father has not been able to see me coach as a head coach. And so he's going to get to see me coach in person on Thursday, and that means the world to me. I'm very blessed. Took me in as a foster child, adopted me, gave me a second chance at life, believed in me, instilled you know, important values like discipline and hard work and the things that have gotten me here, you know, allowed me to chase my dreams, and is the most loving, caring, selfless man I've ever known. And I just can't wait to see him here in a couple days.
Yeah, love that. Nice tribute to Dad and a son appreciating the moment. Scott, I'm sorry I threw that one on you. What's your that guy?
Well, this is basketball related, and I don't know if you guys remember 20 years ago of a kid from Greece Athena High School. This was before all the other ones have come after this. Jason McElwain, who came in with 4 minutes left to go in the game, never suited up. The manager, yesterday was the 20-year anniversary of that.
Didn't he score a bunch of points?
He came in there, missed his first shot, but then in those 4 minutes went on to score 20 points in his high school career in the span of 4 minutes with 6 3-pointers that he can. And here's the quote that I remember him when they interviewed him after that. This 5'7", 100-pound kid, he says, "I was hotter than a pistol." I don't think you could say that. I don't think you could say that these days. Probably now, not. 20 years later.
It's suspended.
But, yeah. But I would just want to tip a cap to a 20-year anniversary for J-Mac.
Yeah, and the coach.
Those are like Bam Adebayo numbers. That's crazy.
No, his were not all from the free throw line. That's pretty good. David, what's your that guy?
I got two real quick. The first one is, this is the time of year when the Lord of Chaos shakes off his slumber and rises up, and the NCAA tournament, March Madness, begins. And so let's just hope that everyone's bracket, including mine, is ruined before the weekend. All right? That is a good year. The second one, just going back to Team Venezuela, Miggy, Victor Martinez coaches, Gleyber Torres, De Jesus pitching, Cater Montero, that they just really cool. And another shout out quick to the last USA manager to actually win the WBC, old Jim Leland.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I'll send you a picture. It's great.
Was he smoking a heater back in the tunnel?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I did not realize that was the case. You know, I didn't know how long the WBC has been around. So it
over 20 years.
Yeah, a little longer than I've been paying attention. Oh, look at young Jim with the Fu Manchu going on. Nice.
He smokes.
Nice look. Paul, you're holy disc. You're that guy.
That guy this week is someone you've never heard of. His name is Eli Thompson. He is a college student at something like North Greenville University, if I remember correctly. He's a basketball player. And if you go to the Wall Street Journal from about 10 days ago, look for the article that Eli Thompson wrote that got published in the Wall Street Journal. Here's the title: "I'm a college student. I'm a college athlete, and Gen Z sports betting is wrecking my friends' lives."
Yeah.
And he goes on to talk in great detail about how sports betting, using apps, FanDuel, DraftKings, all the things, right? Using apps to bet on sporting events has become this dangerous rite of passage, and Gen Z is getting sucked in. And so and then he talks about what's going to happen with March Madness coming. So good on him for writing this article. Good on the Wall Street Journal for publishing it and shining a light on a conversation that we need to have about how do we help Gen Z not just throw good money after bad and get sucked into something they shouldn't be sucked into. So well done, Eli Thompson, March 9, Wall Street Journal.
That guy is not involved in sports in any way, shape, or form, but I have come to appreciate his approach to his final days alive. He's a former U.S. Senator, Ben Sasse. And a few weeks ago, he was diagnosed with terminal, some form of cancer. I cannot remember what it is, but as he has said, we all have an end date. I just happen to know mine. And he has launched a podcast in his final weeks of life, and the podcast is called Not Dead Yet. And it's actually highly entertaining. It's very fun. It's not maudlin. It's not super deep, depressing kind of stuff like here, woe is me. He's interviewing celebrities. He's having fun. He's living life. And he was on a podcast last week promoting his podcast when he was asked, what does it mean to you to redeem the time?
If you're not dead yet, you may as well redeem the time. But that isn't just me, it's all your listeners too. Redeem the time in my theology means it is a great blessing to be able to live a life of gratitude to God by doing stuff that tries to benefit your neighbor. It is a blessing to get to be co-creators, but we don't build any storehouses that last. The things that matter and endure are human souls and things way bigger than any of my projects. That doesn't mean we should be neither triumphalist nor despairing, right? Like nothing we build is going to last, but that doesn't mean nothing matters. The chance to love your neighbor and serve is a blessing, and that's what the Puritans meant by redeem the time.
Love it. He goes on and talks more about that concept. So if any of you are looking for a very encouraging and uplifting podcast, it's hosted by a guy who's about to die. It's called Not Dead Yet. And it's really, really good. And it's that's why he's that guy. Okay, let's move things to the end with the 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay, so we're all pretty pumped about March Madness, right? We're all excited. We have our brackets. We're going to have our brackets submitted by noon tomorrow in time for the kickoff of the games. And I just want to kind of take our 3-minute message off of the Eli Thompson gambling thing. But before I do that, the producers of Church View Sports have asked me to read a disclaimer online, which says, Church View Sports in no way endorses betting, sports betting of any kind. No money is going to exchange hands in the implementation of our Church View Sports March Madness bracket. Just want to make that perfectly clear.
Wow. Is that from corporate? Did that come down from corporate?
That came straight down from corporate, from Randy Gilmer, our chief legal counsel. Now, what I do want to say is we've all heard the verse where it says the love of money is the root of all evil, right? But this whole thing about sports betting and all that other stuff, I got a different verse for us to think about today. It's from Proverbs 13:11. Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. I just want all of us just like live into that for a minute. If it's a get-rich-quick scheme, it's gonna go right out the back door, most likely, and the damage that can be done, the addiction that you can form, if you're going to get into sports gambling, or if you're going to, I guess, pursue any get-rich-quick scheme for financial gain, think twice. Hard work, wealth driven from hard work grows over time. So I think as we head into a season where a lot of sports betting is going to be prominent front and center, maybe that's not your advice, but whatever get-rich-quick scheme might be, let's think twice. And let's take the long, slow obedience in the same direction. Proverbs tells us that's the better path.
Yeah, good thought. Very good thought.
I just lost $50. I thought Bill was going to do the 3-minute message.
Scott had Paul, so you guys kind of broke even on that one. Hey, thank you all for listening, and hopefully getting your brackets in on time. We'd love to have a bunch of you take part. We have fun with it.
Who are your 12-5 upsets? I have High Point over Wisconsin.
You know, do you know that Jeremiah Gilmer goes to High Point? So we have a Church Pew connection into High Point, but I couldn't bring myself to pick that one. I don't have any 512s, which is foolish because I know there always is at least one of them. I just don't know which one it will be.
Akron over Tech.
There you go.
Akron over Texas Tech.
What about you, Scott?
I was going with that one too, but Akron, because I'm in Ohio, I got to pick them, right?
Yeah, you do.
If word gets out and you didn't, life's going to become very rough for you in that part of the world. Hey, thank you all for listening. Make sure you check us out at churchpewsports.com and follow us on Facebook and on X Have fun enjoying the chaos that David is creating in March Madness, and we will talk to you again next time on Church Pew Sports.